Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. Today we're going to be diving into some Old Dominick products. So this is a distillery in Memphis, Tennessee, and they go way back, like pre-prohibition, back when grocers, if you read up on bourbon history, we have grocers to actually thank for a lot of the preservation and enhancement of the spirit, which became like the American spirit in the form of bourbon. So one of the things that grocers could do is obviously they had the funds to get their hands on barrels, and then they could actually pay coopers to have them done a specific way, so that like charring of barrels can be traced back to grocers as well, who had the barrels charred because they knew that, I think it was like for cognac and stuff like that, people were doing it. So they wanted to do it for the bourbon, for the corn distillate that they were getting their hands on, have it barreled up. And then they also had access to trade routes, to refrigeration, all those kinds of things, right, that the common person didn't have. They were also really good at like flavoring whiskeys and distillates as well to sell, on their routes and whatnot. And Old Dominick goes back to, a grocer. And this has stayed kind of in the family since then too, which is pretty cool. But one of the things that first made them popular was, where's that? This one. The Old Dominick Toddy, 60 proof. The Toddy. So this is, a very aromatic infused spirit. It's their high rye distillate now, but back in the day, the grocer would use, herbs and aromatic spices and things like that to infuse the whiskey to make the toddy, and this was kind of like their hallmark staple product when it came to their booze. Prohibition hit, they started to focus a lot more on just the grocer side of things. I think at one point they were like the biggest refrigerated warehouse in Memphis, and so they housed most of like the beer and stuff there. So it's constantly had its hands in the alcohol business, right? And then I think it was like the grandchildren of the original guy found like a bottle of the toddy that was dusty, unopened in one of their warehouses, and loved it and decided, let's get back into that, huh? So they launched their distillery, and originally sourcing from MGP while their stuff aged, but they were contracting out a specific mash bill, so it was like the mash bill they wanted, and they kept that mash bill with their own distillate, which is pretty cool. So this is Tennessee whiskey coming out of Memphis, Old Dominick. We're going to try a few things today. One of them is their cask strength. They have a cask strength bottle. They have, this is a barrel pick that was done by the Soda Boys Club in South Carolina. I've already had some of this and shared it with my father-in-law, brother-in-law, and everybody really liked it. So I'm excited to cover this one on the channel. And then finally, the reverse-engineered toddy. Thank you, Matt, for sending the samples in, by the way. Appreciate you, brother. But that bottle of the toddy that they found, they decided to sort of taste it, try and reverse-engineer it to make a new toddy product. That's this, that pays homage to their heritage, which is pretty cool. So we'll try them all, give our thoughts and opinions, and we'll see if this craft distillery out of Memphis is worth your time and money. All right, we're going to kick things off. I want to do the toddy last because I think that one's going to have... it's going to have a lot of flavor to it because it's, infused. And I don't want that to be the first thing I taste and then move on to the other whiskeys, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to start with the cask strength. This is just one of their standard offerings. This is their high rye mash bill, so it's 52% corn, which is almost the bare minimum, and then 44% rye, and then only 4% malted barley. This is 123.08 proof. After this, we'll do the barrel pick, which is slightly lower. It's 119 and some change. They're pretty similar. So I'm not too worried about starting a little bit hotter, but I want to lead off with their, part of their core lineup, and then move on to the pick, because picks will vary more than, their core lineup will. Okay. It's interesting. You can already tell that the toddy's cloudy, right? As opposed to the others, which is interesting looking. Okay, so let's talk about price. Oh my gosh, hang on. Okay. I just got to say first, oh my gosh, the very first thing I got off of this was like that, you get the white powder on like a fresh pack of pink bubble gum, or like Big League Chew. Remember Big League Chew, the like shreds of bubble gum with the white powder all over it? That's the very first thing I think of when I smell this whiskey. I just wanted to get that out there before I talk about the product itself. But anyways, their cask strength, I'm just reading off the site because I don't want to get stuff wrong, okay? Because when I get stuff wrong, people call me out on it and then I feel stupid. Anyways, so this is usually around 6 years old and comes in at like $50 even. So one of the things that you will notice about these bottles is how approachable they are from a price standpoint. To get a 6-year-old cask strength Tennessee whiskey, yikes. To I don't get too hung up on that stuff that people often do. But to get a cask strength Tennessee whiskey at 6 years old for $50, that's like a pretty good deal when you're thinking statistically. So if it tastes good, you gotta think that's a really good deal, right? Let's get in here. Yep. Again, I'm just getting that Big League Chew, the pink bubble gum with the white powder all over it. I think if Fun Dip, you got the Lick-a-Sticks, just the white Lick-a-Stick that you dip into the Fun Dip, just that thing. It smells like that. Or it reminds me of you remember the candy cigarettes when we were kids? You get the like at the candy store, the box of the fake cigarettes, the like little white candy sticks. That's this on the nose. But alongside it, I'm also getting a really nice grain-forward note on the nose. I really like grain-forward profiles personally. I know some people don't. Some people are not really into that. I kind of like grain-forward stuff. And I am definitely getting some fresh milled grains on the nose. It reminds me, I used to do a lot of home brewing, my own beer. And, I made my own mash tun. And I wouldn't do extract brewing where you're just getting like a can of that malt extract that you just pour into a tub and boil. I would actually go and pick my grains by hand and have them milled at a specialty store here in Grand Rapids. And so this reminds me of the nose of walking into that specialty store where they've got bags of different kinds of malted grains all over the place, and your hand selecting, what do I want my ratios to be for this recipe? Am I going to play with something, stick with something that's already I've already made before? Stuff like that. And you smell all those malted grains in the air. Reminds me of that on the nose. It's very candy sweetness and malted grains. Let's try it. Cheers. Ooh, it's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. That candy sweetness like zips past your tongue right out of the gate. Like Speedy Gonzalez, just right across your tongue. After that, big wave of rye spice. It really does taste a lot. Like if you told me this was a rye, I'd totally believe you. So big wave of rye spice, and that grainy malted note comes along behind it, big and bold. As it starts to subside, black peppercorns on the tail end of that palate and headed on into the finish. You get a little bit of spicy oak. Some zesty citrus in there, a little bit of like that orange rind, orange peel, where you express the oils off of an orange peel and that puff of oils right in your face, that citrusy vibe like that. That sweetness does come back around later on into the finish. Almost like an orange cream soda. This is the first pour I've had all day, and it's pretty hot. So let's go in, we'll give it another. I am noticing, by the way, I don't know if you can see this on the camera. It's super thick. Look at these big drips rolling down the glass. I love that. It is a little bit oily in there in the mouthfeel. Cool. Yeah, a wave of spice. There's no mistaking it, even on follow-up sips. It's a big part of this sip. It is cask strength. It's coming in hot, and it's not bashful. But that candy sweetness right up front, and then that orange and vanilla cream on the tail end of the finish is a really nice sort of framing. So it's not just all spice and peppercorn, It's framed by sweetness. Gives it some body and definition. I like that. That's pretty good. Let's move on to the Soda Boys. This is a barrel pick. So you might, from time to time, see a pick from Old Dominick on a shelf somewhere, depending on what your local store is doing. Same recipe. This is going to be lower proof and a single barrel offering, right? Well, your pick might not be lower proof than the cask strength, but mine is. 119 and some change. First thing I'm noticing is that this particular barrel isn't quite as viscous as the cask strength offering from their core lineup. It is thick, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite as thick. The orange and vanilla cream we were getting on the finish of the cask strength, I'm getting some of that on the nose, actually, of the pick, where I didn't get that orange zestiness on the nose of the cask strength. A little bit of like a macadamia nut vibe on this too. Just a nice soft nut. A nice soft nut. Not something I say frequently or something we'll just leave that behind, I think. But yeah, a little orange zest, a little macadamia nut, and some of those oak sugars on the nose. You think of your vanillas and caramels. And just a hint of that sort of fresh cut grass note that I get on some ryes. I'm getting here as well. Let's try it. Cheers. Yeah, not quite as in your face as the cask strength. That had that big wave of spice. I got those brown sugars right up front, but the main focus of the palate to me is leaning rye. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit of that mintiness, like your spearmint, some fresh cut hay in there. It kind of reminds me of like a lavender floral note as well. Kind of on the tail end of the mid palate and transitioning into the finish, that lavender and a little bit of honey. Think of buttercream as well. The finish is really nice. And again, by the way, MSRP for this I think is like 55 bucks. So it's really approachable. And for that price, I mean, both of these pours so far, pretty good. Pretty good. Which one do I prefer? I like them both, actually. I really do like them both. Which one is my preference, though? Honestly, I think it's really close. Like, really close. I mean, you could flip a coin here. I think these are both really good pours. But it depends on your preference, you know, and your mood that day, I suppose. For me today, I'm liking the bold crescendo on the first pour, followed by that orange cream soda finish. I do like this macadamia nut vibe on the pick. A little bit of orange zest in there too. So I really like both of these, but I think if I had to pick one, if I fall off a log today, I'm gonna go with the Cask strength from their core offering, that big thick mouthfeel too. This is still just super thick running down the glass. Pretty cool. But I don't think you could go wrong with either one of those. Let's move on to the Toddy. So this is, from what I can tell, a $30 bottle, okay? And it doesn't look quite the same. This is sort of like I mean, it's a flavored whiskey. It's not supposed to accomplish the same thing these are. This is a little bit different. Often a mixer. I gotta tell you, on the nose alone, it reminds me a lot of an old fashioned. Okay, you got the aromatic bitters, the Angostura bitters. It's also like a 7-Up vibe I'm getting on the nose of this. I'm not a huge soda drinker, to be honest, but when I was a kid, I did like the lemon lime sodas like Sprite and 7-Up. This reminds me of 7-Up on the nose. It almost smells a little fizzy. But there's also, like I said, the aromatic bitters in there, like your clove and spice. Reminds me of like an orange spice tea. Interesting. Let's try it. Cheers. Whoa. Interesting. If you like herbal teas, anise, clove, stuff like that, you might get down with that. It's very sweet and very herbal. I will say that. Very sweet, very herbal. It's weird to think this about a whiskey, but it almost tastes like something I would want to drink hot. You know what I'm saying? Which is maybe why a hot toddy is usually served hot. It has a sweetness of like a flat soda, but it's got tons of herbalness going on here, like a chai tea, that orange spice tea, something like that. Very peculiar. Hey, if that's your vibe, that's your vibe. It don't matter to me. All right, that is Old Dominick out of Memphis, Tennessee. Now, this isn't their full core lineup, obviously. They have quite a bit here. They got just their standard straight Tennessee whiskey. They've got a bonded Tennessee whiskey. They've got a small batch bourbon whiskey. So I'm assuming that one just hasn't done the Lincoln County process. Cask strength, which we had today, the Hauling Station Trolley Stop series. I believe Hauling Station was MGP and now like blended with their own distillate. There's a Hauling Station wheat whiskey as well. Yeah, so they're doing a lot of stuff. Pretty cool. I'm going to be honest. These actually impressed me for the price. I think it's really hard to pass on something that has that much flavor and is, you know, 55, 45 bucks. That's a steal, I think. I think if you ever see one of those offerings, pick it up. It's not going to hurt your wallet too much. You may as well try something different, and pretty good juice, I think. Pretty good juice. And that is Old Dominick. Thank you so much for watching the video today. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you enjoyed the video, would you let me know by leaving a like on the videos? That's the best free way to support the content right here on YouTube. I've done that too many times, haven't I? You probably just zone out. You're not even here. You clicked off the video and you're like, he's at the outro. Time to go watch some Bruzel or Bourbon Junkies or whoever you're watching these days. Tell them I said hi. Cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.